Part 10, the Australian continent. Australia is the only continent that is also a country. It covers about 3.3 million square miles, making it the smallest continent on the planet. For thousands of years before the arrival of the European colonists, there were native people who lived on both the mainland island and the smaller islands, which include Tasmania. While the native people spoke many different languages prior to the colonists, today most people speak English. The total population of Australia is about 2.2 million, with 2.7% of those being from the native populations. Here's Australia on the globe. Since Australia is isolated from the rest of the world by the southern Pacific and Indian Oceans, many distinct and unique species of animals are found there, and there alone. Some of these amazing animals include the koala, the kangaroo, the duck-billed platypus, and the Tasmanian devil. Most of these unusual animals are marsupials. In order to be a marsupial, the mammal must have a pouch for her very tiny babies to crawl into and grow big enough to leave the safety of their mother. A marsupial is an animal that is born immature and must develop outside of the mother before it can live in the outside world. The babies are born tiny and pink. A baby marsupial is called a joey. This joey is a koala. This is a grown-up koala. It lives in eucalyptus trees and eats the leaves as food. The Murray River is the longest river in Australia. It begins in the Australian Alps east of Melbourne and winds its way through the lowlands to empty into Lake Alexandra near the Indian Ocean. It stretches across the country for about 1,476 miles. Part 11. Continent of Antarctica. Antarctica has no native people, plants, or animals, but you can find lots of living things on and around this continent. 98% of Antarctica is covered in ice that averages about 1 mile thick. Many species of sea mammals, such as blue whales, orcas, and fur seals, as well as birds, such as the penguin, rely on the small phytoplankton for food. Remember that phytoplankton are an important food source because they are at the bottom of the food chain. They share the bottom of the food chain with diatoms, which are neither plant nor animal, but it's still a great food source, even if we don't really know what it is. Science can be crazy, am I right? A species is a group of related animals that are able to breed and produce offspring. A sea mammal is a warm-blooded animal with fur that lives primarily in the ocean. Because Antarctica has no native human population, there has been a lot of discussion between countries about who owns the land. Right now, there are 7 countries with claims in Antarctica, but even countries who have no claim at all, like the US and Russia, have large research stations there. A treaty was signed by many major countries to ban military activity on Antarctica and preserve it for scientific discovery. Over 4,000 scientists and support staff live on Antarctica in the summer months, and even in the winter, there are generally about 1,000 people living there. Here's Antarctica on the globe. Part 12. The South American continent. Filled with thick, unexplored rainforests, the mountain peaks of the Andes, and the amazing Amazon River, South America is a collection of 12 independent countries that speak Spanish and Portuguese. The largest country is Brazil, with more than 3.8 million square miles and almost 200 million people. Brazil was originally colonized by the people of Portugal, so that's the language Brazilians speak. The Amazon rainforest is the largest tract of rainforest in the world and is estimated to contain more than 2.5 million insect species, tens of thousands of plants, and some 2,000 birds and mammals. A rainforest is a dense tropical forest known for high levels of biodiversity and rain. Here's South America on the globe. The Amazon River is one of the 2 longest in the world, the other being the Nile River in Africa. Some scientists think the Amazon is actually longer than the Nile, but this is still up for debate. The Amazon begins as a small stream in the Peruvian Andes and ends in the Atlantic Ocean, where the estuary can be more than 250 miles wide. In fact, the Amazon River is so wide and deep that sea ships have navigated inland on the river for more than 2/3 its length. An estuary is a place where a river meets an ocean. Rainforests have the highest level of plant and animal diversity than any other biome. In fact, the Amazon rainforest holds the largest collection of living plants and animal species in the world. The forest is home to about 2.5 million insect species, tens of thousands of plants, and some 2,000 birds and mammals. A biome is a community of plants and animals that live in the same major habitat, like the rainforest, for example. Part 13. The North American Continent. North America includes the countries of the United States, Canada, Mexico, and several small Central American countries that straddle the world between north and south. North America has some of the largest lakes in the world. All 5 of the Great Lakes are included in this category. The Great Lakes are located on what many in the area call the North Shore and separates the United States from Canada. The lakes vary in depth and area, with Lake Superior being the largest and Lake Ontario the smallest. Lake Erie is the shallowest, with an average depth of only 62 feet. Here's North America on the globe. Here's a satellite map of the Great Lakes. Here's an illustrated map of the Great Lakes, with the surrounding states around them. The name America comes from the Italian explorer Amerigo Vespucci, who was the first to realize that the lands Christopher Columbus discovered were not actually part of Asia. So even though his expeditions came later, his critical thinking process got his name on 2 continents. At first, both continents were called the Americas, but later, once people realized there were actually 2 separate land masses, they were divided into North America and South America. Amerigo Vespucci was a pretty clever guy. He was a financier, a navigator, a cartographer, and he forged a major expedition. A financier is a person who invests money for other people or companies. A navigator is a person on a ship who plans the course of a journey. A cartographer is a person who takes geographical information and turns it into a map. And an expedition is an exploratory voyage undertaken by a group of people. The longest river in North America is the Missouri, but the most famous is the Mississippi. It begins in Minnesota and ends in the Gulf of Mexico, running almost the entire length of the United States of America. At about 2,320 miles long, it is still only a little more than half the length of both the Amazon and the Nile rivers.